Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Let's Remember Skies of Arcadia. There were, in my estimation, enough people who seemed interested in this game and in this playthrough for us to continue doing it. So we're going to do that, even though I know my channel is small and we're really only dealing with, a niche group of followers and subscribers. But I love you all, so let's play through this. I want to note that while our first section of this was a little bit more experiential and talking about sort of what this game made me feel, during this section, once we get topside, I'm going to take quite a bit of time to talk about some things that this game has made me think about for the last couple of days. It's important that we still have this be a playthrough that's about just experiencing the game. But even though I'm not doing anything really critical here, I think a thesis about why I think this game is noteworthy or worth playing is still warranted, particularly considering the critical sphere of games and sort of attitudes I think that exist there at times. But for now, we're just going to sort of enjoy what's going on here. The game just sort of is always setting up these nice little vignettes for us to take part in. And the big thing that we're going to talk about in the first part of this is Fina. And if I'm scrolling through dialogue fast here, I'm going to try not to, but at the same time, this is, this isn't like main story. It's not that big of a deal. This is just people drinking loqua. Which is a wonderful stand-in name for fake alcohol, I think. And so we have our three protagonists who I love very dearly. And so the nice thing here is that one of the things that Fina will function as in the game is a sort of audience surrogate at times when it comes to asking questions about the world of Arcadia. Because she's not really from around here, or at least she's not from, you know what I'm saying. She's mysterious and she doesn't know the world, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to talk about spoiler stuff because I know there are probably people watching this series who haven't played the game entirely. But so she gets to ask us questions about the world. In this case, she's just asking what Loka is, but it's like, at other times, she'll be asking fundamental questions about Arcadia that we don't know necessarily, and that will help contextualize the culture and the space around us. Now, I want to stress something about Fina, and I'm going to go down the gender road for a bit here, and I'll probably say stuff that will be the equivalent of me putting my foot in my mouth. So Fina seems to have qualities that we might consider traditionally feminine, by which I mean, like, the weird, stupid gender norms that are set up by society today. She's soft-spoken, she wears a dress, she seems very passive, although this is going to change very quickly, and we're going to see an inner strength with her. I want to note that one of the reasons I adore Fina, I love all these characters, one of the reasons I adore Fina is because she retains her sort of traditional femininity while also having, like, totally indomitable spirit, right? And I want to be clear here, I think there's a notion, a fallacious notion, that, and maybe some of this is, I mean, it's cultural on our end, but it's probably stronger culturally on the Japanese end of things, that passivity and all these other things, passiveness, and all these sort of traditionally female things are associated with what makes a good woman, but that's stupid. And the thing I like about Fina so much, we're going to see in this scene, is that she can still retain her feminine qualities and still have just as much strength as someone like Vise. And perhaps we'll see here gameplay-wise, she might even have more strength than Vise. At times. Aika, it's hard to figure out where Aika falls in on the spectrum of this. In terms of female characters, she's certainly the more tomboyish of the group, but she's still a woman and a super strong female character. But my point is that Fina has visual design and sort of character qualities that would make people think of the stupid, like, oh, that's traditionally feminine, but at the same time, she can retain those qualities and still be a very strong character, and we're going to see that here. So Dine's going to have a bunch of questions for her. And so we have a swashbuckler choice. And the choice is with whether to speak up or to just say nothing. And generally, or at least in the first section, we talked about swashbuckler choices being these things where if you're bold, you tend to get the points. But here, actually, if we sit quietly and respect, quote-unquote, the chain of command, we actually get the swashbuckler points. Now, there's a lot we could read into that in terms of what it means here, but really it's just about sort of adhering to some sort of unspoken pirate code and respecting your captain. The important thing to note here, though, is that Dine is a man and Fina is a woman. And so we're going to have a situation where essentially the patriarch of this island, of this clan, of these pirates, is going to make demands of Fina, and Fina is not really going to play into that. So he wants to know where she's from and sort of like what her whole deal is. And so she can't say. And, you know, Dine's pressing. Then Fina looks him straight in the eye, is very kind, thanks him for saving his life, but then says that she cannot tell anybody about what her quest is, even if it means sacrificing her life. She stares down the patriarch of this island, in a strange place, in a strange world that she does not know, surrounded by pirates who... That's an intimidating thing, even if these are good guy pirates. And she tells their captain that she will not give him the information that he wants. And she does it with a stern look on her face and pure determination in her heart. And I think that this is an important moment for Fina, because it establishes that notion that she is sort of, quote-unquote, traditionally feminine, but still that femininity, again, I'm using... this is so hard for me to talk about because I feel like some sort of hypocrite whenever I talk about gender sometimes, because gender's fucking hard to talk about. She's a super strong character. She will not back down from people in positions of authority, and although captainship in Arcadia is not something that's necessarily normative to men, as we'll see later on in the game, here she's talking to the head of the island, who's a man who holds authority, and she says, sorry, can't do that, and he backs down. And in terms of establishing Fina's character, that's important. And in terms of establishing something about Dine's character, that's important too. And I like what that moment does for the game world. And I like what that moment does for Fina in a lot of ways.
Thank you
now,
so
it
much.
seems like I'm reading a lot into this moment, and that's sort of what I do with games. That's sort of what a lot of people I know do with games.
Yay!
But it is important for us to sit back and consider how the game introduces us to Fina. We see her first, you know, kind of running away from Alfonso, and then we rescue her, but then once she's up and about and autonomous, she doesn't necessarily give up any of her sort of agency, which I think is very important. And there will be other situations where she will be faced with authority figures and she will not back down. And I admire Fina as a character very, very much because of that. And it's interesting to note that Vise, as the only male of the party that we have right now, in order for him to get the swashbuckler points, or us as the player too, if we understand Vise as both character and as actor, is to be passive. So in that situation, Vise is the one who's passive and Fina is the one who isn't. And The game's not trying to make a larger commentary on gender, but through its systems and what's going on there, it sort of does, to an extent. So that's that. That's our super circuitous look at Fina as a character and sort of gender in Skies of Arcadia at the moment. When we get topside, we're gonna get into an even more sort of circuitous talking point, because we're gonna sort of need to stop the action a little bit to really allow me to collect my thoughts. So when I do these Let's Plays, this series at least, I don't go in with any talking points. I go in with ideas that I think we should talk about, but I don't go in with a script or anything. Not the same way that I went in with something of a more practiced approach, like when I covered Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus, I think, demanded that I do something a little bit more hyper-critical and research-laden. Here, this is generally about the emotions that we feel and the experiences that we have. But I need to sit back and we need to talk about why I think this game is worth us playing through. And by the end of this, there's going to be a lot of videos of Skies of Arcadia, and they're going to be 30 minutes to an hour long, or however long it takes us to get through each section. And I'm going to be spending a significant amount of time playing this game again, and talking about it as I play it. And that is not a small investment of my time. So why do I think we should sit back and look at Skies of Arcadia? Well, in order to get to sort of the kernel of that, I need to talk about a couple of things. One was something that I sort of talked about in passing on social media recently, and it was this notion that in the critical sphere, I think there is sometimes a desire to equate significance or importance with quality or quote-unquote, like, goodness, right? Like how good a game is. And so there's a lot of problems with that, the least of which that something being significant or good are highly subjective terms. So I need to sort of qualify what I mean a little bit. When I talk about a game that is important or something like that, oh my gosh, my controller's going crazy. When I talk about a game that's significant or important, I mean one that sort of has us... Oh, controller, stop it. I don't know why it did that. So when I say significant or important, I need to make it clear that I'm talking about a game that either challenges our understanding of the form of video games, uses that form in an interesting way, or the narrative has certain things to say in terms of gender or politics or meta-narrative. And man, my controller is going to go crazy throughout this whole section. So let's give an example. One of my favorite games of all time is Skies of Arcadia, but one of my favorite quote-unquote important games of all time is Metal Gear Solid 2. It's actually what I think is one of the best games ever made. And best and favorite are different things, for the record. But why do we sit back and say that Metal Gear Solid 2 is interesting? Well, it's interesting and important because of the things it does in terms of reshaping and revising the form of Metal Gear Solid 1, and using that to comment on multiple things, including the player's relationship with their avatar, including the nature of video game sequels, including the nature of video games as interactive media. That's a game that has a lot to say, and so therefore we ascribe a certain degree of significance or importance to it, and then on a critical level we say that, well, that's a good game, right? That's true. I think that I think it's a good game. I think it's a great game, in fact. But I think that if our metric for understanding what makes a game great or good is whether or not it is critically interesting, I think that's a mistake. I think it's a very dangerous mistake for us to make, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is that it will fundamentally lock us out from a large majority of the canon of video games. So a lot of video games are not particularly significant when it comes to talking about the form or doing a lot of social commentary or anything like that. I just recently played on my Intellivision, which I love talking about because I love playing my Intellivision games. I played Frog Bog. All you do is jump around as a frog and eat flies. Now, if we want to talk about a game that's good, I think Frogbog is good. I think it's fun. Not that fun is necessarily the metric for what makes something good, but I think I enjoy playing Frogbog. When I want to look at a game that is sort of that era, in our minds at least, but is also important, I can look at something like Missile Command. Missile Command is an important game because of sort of what it's doing with its gameplay and how you can never win and how it's about impending nuclear doom, blah, 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 blah. But if I sat back and had to say, like, oh no, the only past game of that era that's, like, important is, like, Missile Command, and then, you know, Adventure, and all these things, and I only name-drop the things that were sort of given with posterity the stamp of significance, I rob myself of experiencing a ton of games. And if we want to look at games critically, and if we want to look at games in any way that is not perfunctory, I think it is important for us to consider the wider catalog of games. So if I want to talk about JRPGs, yeah, I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, I'm going to play, you know, maybe Persona 4 or something like that. I'm going to play games that have a lot of things in them to sort of digest, but I'm also going to play something like Lunar, which is not a complicated game, and almost has the same sort of purity and idealism that Skies of Arcadia does. Lunar is not necessarily a significant or important game. I think Lunar is still a very good game. So, first problem of equating significance or importance with good is that it locks us out of the wider canon of video games. The second issue is that significant and good, as we've sort of hinted at, are not necessarily equivalent terms. So, an example of a significant game that I do not think is good, if you can't see this one coming from a mile away, is BioShock. BioShock is a very significant game for a lot of different reasons. Do I think it is a good game? I don't. Other people might. Good is experiential, largely. I think that it failed on many levels in its commentary. Another example of a game that, like, if we wanted to say that commentary or self-awareness is a quality for something to be good, would be something like Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is a goddamn mess. And I can't sit back and say that Far Cry 3 is more important than, say, Far Cry 4, just simply because Far Cry 3 is trying to do something on a meta-text level. So good is not this thing that is equated with critically interesting, or necessarily even with game interesting or compelling on a gameplay level. So here's the last example that I'll give before abandoning this point. Let's talk about a game that is neither significant nor important, and not necessarily fun to play, or good from a mechanic standpoint, and that game is Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition is not an important game. I don't think we'll be looking back at Deadly Premonition in many significant critical ways, unless we want to look at it as an example when we look at auteur theory, and we consider, like, Swery as an auteur. Deadly Premonition has a plot that's incredibly insane, puzzles that are totally asinine. It controls like crap. Kinesthetically, it is really painful. Graphically, it is fairly ugly. Not that graphics matters all that much in the consideration of critical things, but it's a game that's generally a mess. It had a spectrum of review scores, and again, fuck review scores. You know, we don't like those, but, you know, it ranged from a 1 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 for people. So clearly there's something going on with that game that speaks beyond just the text, that speaks just beyond the gameplay. There's something else going on there that is more experiential, that is making it a game that people like. I fucking love Deadly Premonition. I would never sit back and tell you that it is a significant or necessarily, like, really tightly made game. I think it's made with a lot of passion. I think Swery is a goddamn genius. but I need to qualify that by also saying that the game is a total mess. Alright, so when we equate good, significant with good, we run into the problem of limiting our catalog of games that we experience. We also run into the potential pitfall of being critically snobbish and saying that, like, well, this game is important and did this for the form, and that one's not as important because it's far too trite, right? And that's a fucking mistake. We have to remember the reason why most of us got into games. And the reason why most of us got into games is because we played games and we enjoyed ourselves. When I first played Mario, I didn't sit back and go, oh my gosh, the game is teaching me that I have to either jump on or over the Goomba within the first 4 seconds or so, like, because the only way I can progress in Mario is to jump over the Goomba or to jump on it, and then also the blocks are there, so when I jump over the Goomba, I hit the blocks and potentially hit one of the things where I can get coins. Like, the game is doing, within like the first 5 seconds of Super Mario Brothers, it's doing a lot of good design stuff. But when I'm a kid, I'm not sitting back and saying like, oh my gosh, Super Mario is doing all this crazy design stuff. I'm saying Super Mario is fucking fun. Super Mario is an experience that I enjoy. So we should never, as critics or as people who want to take games seriously as an art form, forget the fact that part of the thing that we love about these games is that they enrapture us so much. And they don't need to enrapture us necessarily on a deep intellectual level, they can enrapture us on a gut level. I'm gonna go on with my second point, or like my fourth point here, and then we'll stop and we'll actually play the fucking game. Why do I think Skies of Arcadia is important? I think Skies of Arcadia is important because it makes me believe that people can be good. And that sounds like the most trite, stupid, emotional thing in the world. But the world is not a fair place. The world is messy and sort of shitty. So when I play a game like Skies of Arcadia, when I have a game that's so full of optimism, when I have protagonists that are bold, and who in the face of danger, and disappointment, and trials and tribulations, retain their fundamental goodness, and when I have a game that affirms that people can be good to such a great degree, that's what makes this game important and significant to me. Sure, it's fun as hell to play, sure the setting is awesome and the graphics are really colorful and great, but the reason that Skies of Arcadia matters is because stories matter. And not just stories in games, stories in general. Games, the culture surrounding games, if you are unaware and have been living in a hole for a while, the culture has been great to a lot of people lately. Myself included, a lot of my peers included, plenty of developers who I've never met included, plenty of other people who are just trying to speak up against bad folk included. You all know what I am talking about. Games are important because even when that stupid cultural bullshit and toxicity is surrounding games, games can still be pure, and games can still remind us that there's good. It's the reason why we watch superhero movies. It's the reason why we play a game about sky pirates fighting the evil empire. It's the reason why Star Wars is so powerful. Stories reaffirm powerful things about the human condition, and they do it in a way that makes us believe in like miracles and all this great stuff again. So when I play Skies of Arcadia, and when I sit back and say that Skies of Arcadia is a game that we need to look at it as a story, not just as like a text and like, oh, what the dialogue is, but what the entire experience of Skies of Arcadia is as a game. And that and the emotions that it confers to the player. And it might not be doing that through intense experimentation with the form. It might not be doing that with amazingly smart narrative sort of tricks or anything like that. It might not be doing it with sort of really strange metatextual stuff. It's doing it just on a pure game level where I'm just playing a game, and when I play this game, I believe in heroes again. And so if you want to know why I think Skies of Arcadia is important, that is why Skies of Arcadia is fucking important. And that is why we shouldn't sit back and fall into the mistake of thinking that a game needs to be critically dense in order for it to be powerful or moving or worth our examination. So if you've stuck with me through that, thank you very, very much. I hope somehow I articulated my point to you. We're going to go on and play the game now. We just gave Aika 2 of her special abilities. One of them is a crazy awesome area of effect attack, even though it attacks in like a cone. A lot of Aika's special attacks are things that will attack multiple enemies, but I also just got a special thing for her that negates any magic that the enemy uses, so like any status effects, like it will negate those. Any instant death attacks, it will negate those. It's an amazing skill. And now we can explore Pirate Island a little bit. And we're going to talk to Alan here, and we're going to get another swashbuckling rank. And swashbuckling ranks are so fun in this game because it's another thing where, again, this game is affirming idealism and optimism. So Alan's like, oh man, I'm seasick. Does that mean I can't be a sailor? Well, you know what? Fucking of course you can be a sailor, Alan. Like, why couldn't you, right? We're not going to sit here and tell this kid that he can't be what he wants to be. We're going to encourage him to chase after his fucking dream. Because that's a lot of what this game is about too. Is about being bold and chasing after the things that you value. And just for the hell of it, we're going to play hide and seek with these kids. So we're it. We have to find the kids and Pow. And they should all be up top. So this is a nice moment, and sometimes playing hide and seek with kids is like a stupid little thing that games will do in order to be like, oh, that's really cute. For example, Dishonored does it at the beginning as part of their stealth tutorial, which I don't think works, even though I really like Dishonored. Here, it's a way for us to bond with the people of this island. Which is really great. I know one is high up top, I believe. And even if they're not, I think there's a chest up here with a moonberry, so we're going to go grab it. You would think that I would know this game backwards and forwards, given the amount of times that I've actually played through it, and I've played through this game quite a bit. The last time I played through this game was probably over 4 years ago. So I don't remember where everything is. So you might need to put up with me running around the island crazily to find out where to go. Okay. I thought you were up here, but here's our chest with the sacred crystals. That's fine. The only downside about tall ladders in this game is that you can't move about them very quickly. Nice thing about this, though, is that there's a lot of height to a lot of the game world, which is really great. And one of the reasons they can get away with that is because we are on floating islands, and they can just basically do whatever they want. I think some of the kids might be indoors. I don't think any of them are down in the like the hangar with the ship. Or the port. I don't know what you would call it, because it's a flying ship. The dock, right? So there's one. We're just gonna go, like, everywhere. Although I think we just entered Vise's house, so we might talk to his mom for a minute. So these are awesome moments. And I might have accidentally triggered a story without meaning to. But I like the spaces that we encounter in here too. So like this home feels like a nice home. All the spaces feel very nice. Oh yeah, so we missed out. Not that it matters much. And I don't know if I like it because it's a little voyeuristic, but you can actually there's a handkerchief on the outside of Aika's house, and if you move the handkerchief, there's like a hole in the wood that shows like her room, and you can see Aika with her hair down. And I like that moment sort of because it's not necessarily treated completely like hyper voyeuristically, because she finds Vise and like hits him in the eye. So the game takes the peeping Tom tendencies of like JRPGs, lets you participate in them, and then scolds you. Oh, we didn't get to finish the hide and seek because I moved the story along. Oh well. I don't know what the secret he wanted to tell me was, or at least I don't remember, but that was it. But yeah, look, there's the handkerchief. Yeah. It says right here, there's a hole in the wall. I figured you'd probably try and peek inside, so I covered it up. It is interesting to note that that's actually the only moment in the game, I think, where we ever see Aika with her hair down. Not that that matters much, but it's sort of strange that that moment exists like that. So I think we actually moved the story forward by moving up and climbing again. So once again, we're heading high up. And we're gonna have a nice scene where our heroes contemplate the sunset, tying into the whole notion of exploration and other things. The initial stuff on Pirate Island is very casual, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I think we move up here. I say I think a lot, but it's like, man, I should know this stuff a little better. But yeah, this is the next story point. The color of the sunset here is fucking gorgeous, and the music is really good too. Although we have some weird artifacting stuff because, I don't know if I've made it clear, I'm actually playing this on emulator, just because I have no other way to capture it. Even though my Skies of Arcadia Disc 1 and Disc 2 are literally like 5 feet away from me right now. But the music right here is really good. I actually think that's Fina's theme. It's really nice. But I like that we have moments where these characters just bond as friends. It's really great. And I like this notion of Vise as a dreamer, right? So he's a bold character and things, but he's also, you know, he wonders what else is out there in the world, and that's a common sort of trope that we find, right? But there's something very genuine about this notion of wanting to see the rest of the world, of wanting to explore and know things. So, you know, I want to know what's out there. I don't like giving up. That's why I find these characters admirable. You know, I'm gonna be the captain of my own ship and I'll go beyond the sunset. There's something just really romantic to that notion, right? And this game is so great about being romantic when it comes to, like, exploration. Which is great. I don't know, see, that sort of weird thing around the sun is sort of an artifact that we get from the emulation. But that was a moonstone, holy crap. Landed on Shrine Island. And we get our own little bit of bold music too. I think this is Vice's theme, actually. A lot of energy and zeal. Fina's theme had a nice contemplative nature to it, and now this has a lot of sort of character to it as well. I like the music in this game quite a bit. So the big thing in this game is that the moons are like these powerful things. Moonstones are like fuel for ships. There are 7 moons on Arcadia, all sort of corresponding to different lands, and they have certain elemental effects. It's sort of very, very simple, right? When it comes to like elemental stuff in a game, but I like how they handle it. And I like how they sort of associate the elements also with the cultures that we'll find, because the cultures, excuse me, that we'll find are stand-ins for sort of real-world cultures. So we'll encounter sort of, Valua as Spain, and then, like I said, we'll encounter sort of America, or at least like the New World notion of America, or of things, and we'll also encounter sort of the Middle East and like the Far East and things like that. And it's a little reductive in how it presents those cultures, but I don't think the game ever approaches those cultures with like a terrible eye, even though it plays into some stereotypes every now and then. When it comes to exploring spaces, it's just really nice. And yeah, we're totally gonna go to Shrine Island. Although, I didn't mean to check the papers. I meant to go down the ladder. I think it starts only with us, with Vise and Ica in the party. I don't think we get to take Fina with us yet. Oh, Purple Moonstone, perfect. So, Purple Moonstones are ice, but they're also like status effects. I think we talked about that before. And so I have a tendency to want to make certain characters use certain moonstones. Vise will use red moonstones, Ica will use purple, and then Fina will alternate between green and silver. Later party members will use, respectively, I think, yellow, blue, and I think we use yellow twice over. I forget. Although if Fina joins our party right now, we should move and... First, let's check. Okay, so she's not in our party. When she's actually in our party, we can... No, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to check down here and see. Because, you can find an upgrade for her weapon. I don't know if we'll get that yet. I'll know in like 2 seconds. So unless my controller starts chiming or anything, it's like, nope. So not yet. But we'll fly our way over to Shrine Island, and that will be the end of this segment. And I know we didn't necessarily get a lot done. Shrine Island will be a nice little dungeon crawl. And then the plot will start to kick off. Like any RPG, it sort of starts... Well, not any RPG. Some RPGs can start with a pretty fast pace, but this one will sort of let us breathe. So like we had that big opening thing where we sort of jumped on the airship and did all the fun stuff, and now we're just sort of doing something a little bit more quaint. We're going to retrieve a magical moonstone, which is fun stuff. And then we get our own little small ship. So we're going to go to Shrine Island. And when we get there, we'll stop. But we get our own smaller airship this time. And we just need to circle around, and I don't remember quite where Shrine Island is. Is it to the north? You can see that swirling vortex down there. That's important for later on. Yeah, here's my total problem. I totally forget where things are on the map. Oh, battle music. So good. Oh, Looper's catching us from behind. I bet you all of them run. Oh no, one used magic. Loopers like to run all the time. Ooh. Hit us pretty hard. So we're going to have Vise try to attack, but Ica should be able to use Alpha Storm right away. And this might actually do a lot of damage to the Loopers. Alpha Storm is a really cool attack. Although the loopers might just run the hell away.
Back off! Alpha Star!
Oh no, that's right! Loopers have super high magic defense and super high evasion. That's why loopers are so ridiculous. See, like, his evasion's crazy high, and the only thing that's like a real sure attack on him is going to be if we do, if we use Cutlass Fury. Loopers are sort of like the mascot enemy of this game, the same way that slimes are for, like, Dragon Quest. So we'll keep charging up. Oh, he ran. I don't even know if we get experience from that.
Is it over already?
That's such a strange encounter. A bunch of loopers. Later in the game, we can deal with them a lot easier, but now, not as much. And we'll get a little bit of frame rate chug here, but we do get magic experience from that, which is nice. Okay, yeah, there's Shrine Island. But even just this, with our small little simple ship, going around the game world is awesome. One thing I'll probably miss while going around the game world a lot is will be all of the discoveries. We'll find some of them. I don't know if we'll find as many because I'm not really operating using a guide or anything. We're just going back into the game and experiencing it once again. So if there's a save point right off, we'll totally we'll save and then we'll stop. But we can see the Moonstone knocked a big hole into the area. And one of the things we'll have to do in here is, like, drain all the water out and stuff. But I like this. Monsters crawling inside, moonstones that we need to gather, and the minute they see the moonstone fall, of course they're going to go and try and get it, right? That's super fun. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to go treasure hunting. And I love that. So we're going to stop here. Thank you for sort of dealing with my sort of long, rambly thesis about this game. From now on, we're going to just sort of play and enjoy ourselves a little bit, but I thought it was really important to talk about why this game matters to me and why I think looking at games, looking at the broader catalog of games is important if we want to really comprehend games. So that's that. I love y'all very, very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you stay with me throughout this entire game. This is an amazing game. And if we do each section very quickly, there will be enough videos for a decent amount of content, but it won't take forever. We won't do a lot of optional side stuff. We will try and get all of the crew for our pirate ship, though, when we finally get our pirate ship. That is the one thing we will definitely do, because those characters are really fun. So that's it. Thank you all very much. I hope you have a good day. Love you.